All right. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Serious Angler podcast. As always, I'm your host, Bailey Egbert, and joined with me with half of his voice is the captain, Mr. Andy Full. What's going on,
Yeah.
buddy?
Oh, just living the dream. Got in a shouting match at the refs on the Monday Night Football game for the Bills and the Patriots. We won't go there. And we can call it the Wind Bowl because it was virtually like swirling videos. There's a video out there where Tyler Bass, the kicker of the Bills, was taking warm-up kicks into the wind from like 35 yards out, and the ball would die 5 feet before the field goal post and like curve hard to the right and drop in the end zone. That's how windy it was. It was just
Yeah,
insanity.
it was brutal. For folks to put it even in more perspective, there was, I think they said 12 to 15-foot waves on Lake Erie.
Yeah.
It was crazy. It was pretty wild. And I remember I actually got out that day just to take the garbage out from work, and I usually keep my blinds down while I'm working for the day. And I walked outside and I was like, how are they going to have a game tonight? And it was just like, I think they had oh God, who's the Patriots quarterback? I'm
Mac Jones, he threw the ball
Yeah,
3 times.
3 times. He threw the ball three times.
So like in between like commercial breaks, he would come off to the side and throw the football to like his teammates, and he could hardly get it to him. The ball would like dive, go hard right, left. Like it was like this guy has no arms power at all. Like it was kind of crazy to watch. Like a 10-yard throw, he was missing his receiver 10 yards away from him. It was blowing so hard.
Yeah, and if people know football, they know the Bills have no run game, so that was not a fun game to watch.
No, and I mean, Josh Allen statistically had a poor night, but he also had the receivers drop 8 balls. So he should have been 23 of 30 for almost 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, but he was 140, 184 for one in 15 of 30. Yeah. So
Tough.
and he had a huge bomb to Stephon Diggs, like a 60-yard bomb that hit him in the hands, but the wind moved it at like the last second. You could see it, and it like went off his fingertips.
I
It's
mean, even
insane.
like for the receivers, I think it's even more tricky for the receivers than the quarterback.
Oh yeah, it was wild because it was right at me. Literally, the ball was like this in the air as it was coming down the field. I'm like, if he catches this, it's a miracle.
Yeah.
Like
It's like trying to cast your jerk bait in the wind.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh
Yeah,
man.
or
But,
spinnerbait. Like a
yeah.
spinnerbait's just as bad.
But
So,
enough about football.
yeah.
Some cool news today that we got. There's two things, and first and foremost, we got to give a shout out to our boy, Mr. Adam Deacon, who, as of today, is making his drive back from Lake Eufaula, Alabama, from the Bassmaster Team Championship. It was not the way he wanted it to go, but we are proud of him for one, just making it down there.
Absolutely.
And as everyone knows, Lake Eufaula is not an easy place to fish anymore. That is for dang sure.
It seemed like it was.
Especially
It seemed like for the last 2-3 years it was on an upswing, but this year, I wonder if like the hurricane at all, like one of those hurricanes or those two hurricanes that hit in that area, that like Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama area, like messed it up at all.
I have no idea. I told him, dude, you got to chop down some of those Colorado aspen trees, take them down, and then drop them. And by the time tournament day happens, there'll be fish on them.
Yeah, you're probably. Good. Probably.
I won't tell anybody. You won't get DQ'd. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, man.
But a really cool episode today. We have Mr. Matty Wong on, but we have some order of business before we get to our guest today. Mm-hmm. And it's a pretty cool piece of business, pretty cool announcement that we get to make. And if you're watching YouTube, you've probably seen it, or even on our social, if you guys have been paying attention, we've been kind of not really being subtle with it. We've kind of been putting it out there, but it hasn't been formal yet. And that is, we are partnering with Blackfish Gear for the year of 2022 and moving forward. This channel at Serious Angler, this brand that we've built, it's dedicated to everything bass fishing. Like every day we just strive to learn more and more and as much as we can. And obviously to get better at just catching bass, because let's just face it, the bass is the reason that we're here right now. And this is the reason that you're listening to this right now. And that being said, we can't really, that's something that Blackfish prides their brand on too, is we can't choose the weather. We can't choose what conditions we want to fish in. We have to fish the moment. We have to be prepared regardless of what Mother Nature and her selfish jerkiness throws at us. But The nice thing about Blackfish is it keeps us prepared for that, and we've been thoroughly impressed this past fall. And the nice part is we've gotten off the water and we're not soaked through our rain gear, so it's been nice. It's been a nice change of pace.
It's nice to be dry.
It's very nice to be dry, nice to be warm, and you guys will see some more stuff coming through this brand with Blackfish that we're teaming up for this year. But it's been a lot of fun, especially if you're a northern kind of guy, or your area is just susceptible to brutal conditions.
Storm skin,
like this is the stuff to get. And obviously, that's people say that all the time, but we'll explain more. We'll explain further as we get along. But we're not going to go on for too long about that because our guest is very important today. We are very excited to get him on. And Andy, I think without further ado,
let's get Matty on here.
Bring him on here.
I'm excited to hear his story.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey, good evening, dude. Congrats.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm stoked.
Yeah. How is it over there in nice old California?
Oh, well, it's I got my hoodie on, so it's starting to get chilly. It's
70 degrees.
It's a brisk
chilly.
It's a brisk 60 degrees.
Ooh.
Hey, for this kid that grew up in the middle of Pacific, like anything below 70 is like cold. So,
well, I mean, if you've gone up Mount Haleakala, you would know that it gets pretty cold up there.
This is true. You'll get snow on the top of Haleakala and Mauna Kea, which is on the Big Island. They actually have snow up there right now, which is crazy.
They were in a blizzard warning, I think, like 2 days ago.
Yeah.
You guys know that movie Good Burger?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know the scene where he's like, I know some of these words. Like I'm probably going to feel that way a lot tonight when you talk about Hawaii, because I just have no idea what these words mean.
Yeah.
Volcanoes.
So so Haleakala, and this is a fun. It basically is one of the tallest mountains on Maui. Hale is housed in Hawaiian. Akala, Kala is the sun. And so Haleakala, house of the sun, and Mauna Kea, Mauna is the mountain. Kea, I don't know how to Alelo Hawaii, so I can't speak the language, but I know a little bit, very little.
I'll tell you what, that dialect, that and Scottish is like the coolest dialects to ever like listen to. Like I could listen to it all day long.
Yeah, Hawaiian's like such a beautiful language. Like the way that it was spoken back, like pre-contact Hawaiian days was like, it was so poetic. The way that they spoke to each other, it's like, oh, I regard to you like the highest blossom of the tree, and it's like, wait, what? Like, imagine if we spoke like that, like today. It's like the bass that you caught was like greater than the size of the earth. It's just like ridiculous.
This guy's on drugs.
Yeah, like what is he smoking? But like Pidgin English is like what I grew up speaking, or one of like, so Pidgin is basically Creole English that was put together by all the different migrant workers on like sugarcane fields. So everyone came from like whether it was China, Japan, Vietnam, the Philippines, Samoa. Everyone still had to communicate in a way, and so you have like this mix, and like Hawaii is like a melting pot of ethnicities, but you have this mixed like language and different ways of communicating to people. So it's pretty funny when I speak Pidgin with my friends, or I'm on the phone, or if I have a couple too many beers and I start talking to my buddies from Hawaii, I like instantly switches in. I'm like, oh, bro, how's it? Where you stay? And then everyone's like, what's going on? And I'm like, sorry, let me translate. Hi, how are you? Where are you at right now?
Let me go into my Siri voice.
Yeah. No, there is.
So yeah, for folks tuning in, whether on YouTube or MP3, if you guys have not picked it up already, you guys are talking to the first ever Hawaii-born Bassmaster Elite Series Pro. So, dude, I know you've been on a few shows, and I know you've had some time to really, take it in. But seriously, congratulations on one, the championship, and two, making the dang Bassmaster Elite Series and being the first one from Hawaii, born in Hawaii, to do it. That's pretty badass.
Thanks, Bailey. Awesome. I appreciate that, man. It means a lot to me. It's funny. I just learned recently that Jay Ellis was born. I don't know where he was born, but like, he moved away when he was a kid, but he was born, I think, on Oahu too. But like, he doesn't he wasn't like, he moved away as like a young kid, so he didn't grow up there. And so for me, like to have like
we're born and raised.
I'm like born and raised in Hawaii because it's very much a part of who I am. It's very much like it's my identity. Growing up surfing in Hawaii, free diving, spear fishing, ocean fishing, and bass fishing, and that's kind of like where the love of the sport all began. But yeah, thank you so much, man. It means a lot. I'm so incredibly humbled to be like the first in that way, and yeah. I'm stoked because what is it? It inspires like a new generation of kids that think that wow, it is possible. And then something when I was a kid, until I got away, until I moved to California, was able to make it a reality. But that it is still possible, and there's still a way to get it done by the acts of God and or however.
Right.
Yeah, I'm here, and it's crazy, man. So.
Yeah, dude, you started to get into kind of like your upbringing, and that's really where I wanted to start this is the one that I'm really curious about. And that's, how'd you even get into bass fishing in the first place? Because like I told you, and we semi-joked offline, it was like I didn't know that there was bass on Hawaii. I've heard rumors, but I wanted to ask you if that was true, and you confirmed it. So I'm really curious how you got your start, how you got introduced to it, and who introduced it, like the whole 9 yards on how that started for you.
For sure. Well, I mean, it all started when I was, I must have been like 2 years old. I was still in diapers, basically. I would go down to the Lake Wilson in Wahiawa on the island of Oahu with my dad, and my dad would hold on to a bamboo pole, and I would hold on to his pant leg, because we were right down at the water's edge, and he would catch a tilapia. Like he would hook a tilapia, and then he would hand me the rod, and I would hold on to the rod, and then pull it in, and then just be so enamored by by a tilapia. So it started with basically a panfish, and I was like so stoked by catching these little tilapia. And so the older that I got, by the time I was 4, I was already throwing a spinning rod. I have photos of me throwing like my original golden pen reel and whatnot, and I got more and more fascinated. Anytime I look at a body of water, I was always like, oh, is there fish in it, and can I fish it? And so it wasn't until I was about 6, I want to say, that I went out with my dad's it was actually our barber, this guy named Lance, and he had a bass boat, he had a tracker. And he took me out, and it was cool because he took me out and we caught peacock bass. And I remember, I think they must have been on a bed, because he was like, here, check this out. Swings on it must have been probably a 2-pound tucanary or a 3-pound tucanary, but I thought it was a giant, right? Massive when you're a little kid.
I didn't even know there was peacock bass in Hawaii either.
Yeah.
So I'm learning a lot today.
Hawaii and Florida are the 2 places in the States that actually have peacock bass, because the temperatures don't fluctuate too much. And so it started with a peacock bass, and we also have largemouth bass there too. But my dad went to school. My dad went to college out in California, where his another one of his good friends was obsessed with bass fishing, then getting my dad into it. My dad, grew up in Hawaii, grew up fishing, grew up saltwater fishing, but also when he came back from California, developed this love for bass fishing. And so I remember he had tackle boxes and trays of man's worms, and I was watching Roland Martin and Bill Dance on VHS in the 90s. I was so stoked just to watch, wow, this is so cool. These guys have their own show and whatnot, and just obsessed by it. But really, my dad's good buddy, Uncle Bob, who was kind of my bass guru. So it was my Uncle Lance in Hawaii. That was the local Japanese barber who was like the local stick on Lake Wilson, to my uncle Bob, who grew up or that was living up in Roseville, Sacramento, and fished Folsom all the time. My uncle Bob actually sent me a pack of Zoom flukes, and I'll never forget it. I'm like, whoa, this is like a trippy looking bait. Like, what do I do with this thing? He's like, Texas rig it. And because like I had like a membership to Bassmaster, I know how to Texas rig, and so I Texas rigged it and started learning how to pitch it around. By the time I was like 8 or 9, my dad had a Daiwa bait caster, and it was a right-handed bait caster, and so I taught myself in the yard how to throw a bait caster, like aiming at like cans and stuff like that, and just trying not to backlash. And so basically until I would say I would visit my Uncle Bob whenever we would go out to California every couple of years or so. And I think I was like 13 or 14 when we went to visit him, and we were fishing up in NorCal, and we were on this lake, and it was like my first time seeing a big largemouth. And he's like, all right, you can catch it. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, it's on a bed. And I'm like, I've never seen a largemouth on a bed. I've always seen toucanary on a bed. And unlike largemouth and smallmouth, the male actually pulls off while the female guards. And I know largemouth, like the female can guard too in some situations and whatnot, but like predominantly a peacock bass, the male actually pulls off, and the female, the smaller of the species, will actually pull up and guard the nest. And the bigger male, they're usually the ones that you see with the big hump on the forehead, will pull off and guard. And so for me to see this like 5-pound largemouth sitting on a tire and just keeps running back to it, and so I catch my first 5-pounder, basically what I'm trying to say, on a jig, and I was like so stoked. And yeah, and so that's basically kind of the like how I got caught in with bass fishing in itself, you know. But I would also go to like, you know, we had this incredible fishery, and this is a fun one to say. There was a lake called Ho'omalahia, and Ho'omalahia is a botanical garden. And it was basically, it's a dam spillway to prevent flooding in this one area on the east side of Oahu. And there was the load of smallmouth bass in there, like tons. And I remember I must have been like 9 or 10, and our family, we would go to Ho'omalahia to go and camp. And I remember telling my brother, I'm like, hey, I'm going to bring a couple rods in. We're going to like go in right at sunset and just see if there's anything in there. And I had a black spinner bait from Uncle Bob or something like that. And I just walked down and like threw it in. Dude, first cast, I get smoked by like a 3-pound smallmouth. And what? My eyes just like, oh my gosh.
This is Hawaii you were talking about?
Yeah, this is Hawaii, man. And
How the hell have I not gone here yet?
Oh my gosh, like this is insane. And my brother and I proceeded to catch like over 15 different like and small, like back to back, all from this like little bank. And that became like the secret little pond. And that basically like really set the hook into me deep, because I'm like, oh man, I became a volunteer ranger at Ho'omalahia. So I had like, because you can only fish from a certain area, but I'm like, well, if I'm a volunteer ranger, I think I can still like get away with it. So like other people would come down like, hey, you're not supposed to fish here. I'm like Wayne's World. Like,
flash the FBI badge.
Flash the badge, and I'm like, dude, I'm good. They're like, okay. So what ended up happening was this guy, his name's Canute, and he was from London. He passed away now, but he petitioned the state to remove the smallmouth because they would have these kid fishing days, and they were trying to target tilapia for the kids with bamboo poles. And every time a kid would hook a tilapia on a bamboo pole, a smallie would come in and smoke the tilapia and just like, wow, just snap them off. And I'm amazing. Like, why take them out? And you can just get these kids catching smallmouth. Like, and I was a kid saying this, you know, I was an early teenager, preteen, trying to like petition against this old man who's have like, you know, his whole life experience of being the Canute great. And I'm like, bro, like, don't take these things out. This is incredible. I almost caught the state record in here like 2 weeks ago, which was like a 4 1/4. I literally missed the state record when I was 14 by like ounces.
That's insane.
And now it's 5 pounds and it's caught on Kauai or something like that. But like that was really and so long story short, they wiped out that fishery. Ho'omalihia doesn't have any smallmouth in it anymore. It got overrun by red devil cichlids. And then a couple of my buddies threw in some peacock bass. So now there's peacocks in there.
They're just destroying the red bellies.
Yeah, exactly. And they're like toning down that population. But my smallmouth heaven kind of disappeared. But there's still smallmouth. They're such a like true-born killers, smallies, and they've made their way into the streams, which is it's not the best for endemic creatures like the owopu, which is a little mud skipper and whatnot, but for anglers like ourselves, it's pretty cool because you could be in the rainforest and fishing for smallmouth bass in really, really tiny water, and it's so much fun. Like light line, spinning rods. Oh, it's great. So
I heard Kauai has some giants in it, and those like whitewater. So because they have a lot of whitewater rafting streams in Kauai, and I believe that's where the smallies are too. Correct?
Yeah. There's smallmouth all over. So yeah, I would say Kauai and Oahu are the two main places that have bass. Maui doesn't have bass. Big Island doesn't have bass. Molokai doesn't have bass. But and it's neat because there's this kid named Cash out of Kauai. He just made a tournament through qualifying online. It's just cool that these kids now that have like these ability to do online fishing contests, and it doesn't matter where you are, and you can still like submit and then be able to compete. And so he like traveled across the country and was able to compete in his first tournament. It's so funny because he's like surrounded by guys that have like jerseys and stuff that are like middle school and high school kids, and little Cash had his like slippers on and a hoodie. But it's cool because I do see like a new generation of kids in Hawaii that are really like love fishing and love bass fishing. So that's something that it's cool that the more that I can kind of share about that and the fishery in Hawaii, I think the more attention it can get, and hopefully more funding and whatnot.
But, protect the smallmouth.
Yeah, no, I don't know. It's tough because you have you have environmentalists that want to clear them out of certain streams, and I get it too, because it is a finite resource. But like dump them into Lake Wilson where you already have largemouth bass and smallies as well. So there's a couple different things that some of the guys back home, like the Hawaii Freshwater Fishing Association, HFFA, are working together, and they also have a breeding program for largemouth, and they release largemouth and whatnot in Lake Wilson. So
that's pretty cool. That's part of one of my next questions was, what kind of resources do you even have in Hawaii from like not just a wildlife or a fishing game, but like a tournament resource in Hawaii? Like, is there any sort of like path that people can kind of take?
Right now, no. They have a local, like I said, HFFA runs their local derbs, which is awesome because, even when I was a kid, it's just something they just never had. And now I think they have, like 15 members or something like that. But the predominant species that you catch are peacock bass. And when people are like, largemouth fishermen from across the state will be like, oh, I'm going to go to Hawaii and then smash it. I'm going to go target Hawaiian largemouth. And you're like, I'm like, good luck, dude. Like, they are tricky. They are the unicorn to catch. You'll go out and you'll catch 5 to 10 peacock bass, and you won't see a single largemouth all day. And you'll go in, you'll flip the stuff that looks good, you'll crank the stuff that looks good, and you'll catch peacock bass. And then if you get lucky, you'll come across this one random green bush and flip in there and stick a 2-pound largemouth, and you're like, yes, I haven't seen one of you. Yeah, the winning. And so the thing is with Bass Nation, the way you qualify in is through catching largemouth bass. And so I think it'd be cool to make an exception of the rules, so at least people in Hawaii can at least qualify through the Bass Nation. And I honestly think like as long as you like weigh a fish while you have a qualifier, and even if it's a peacock, it's it's still the same techniques that are being employed. I just think that should be like an equal. But yeah, that's why I fished the California Bass Nation, where my whole second journey of my obsession began when I came out to California.
Yeah, I'd like to get into that. Is like how did you get into tournament fishing in the first place, and then where did that lead you to get to where you're at now?
Yeah, well, it's funny because being this digital age that we're in now, everything is online. Everything's the interwebs, and so I went on to the good old Google and I typed in like how to start tournament bass fishing, like as simple as it sounded. Like, how do I start tournament bass fishing in California? And one of my buddies who was working in the photo industry in Los Angeles was like, look, man, like this is how I did it. And I'm like, okay, I'm all ears because I'm just trying to learn. I got my Uncle Bob's boat after he passed in 2016. And long story short, he ended up getting a cancerous brain tumor and passed away within like 6 months, and it was pretty tragic. But with every type of like negative thing or unfortunate things, I should say, will sometimes come a hidden positive. And through that, I was able to get my Uncle Bob's boat, and that was a dream come true for me. I've always wanted to have my own bass boat. Like, I was the kid that had his like that would fill up the tub and like only put like a little bit of water in there, so it looked like a ramp, and I would play with like a Bass Pro Shop like bass boat and truck. And like that, I've always fascinated by it because in Hawaii, the most of the boats that you ever see are ocean boats, like deep V, like cab, like cuddy cab boats, or either flat bottom boats that you go on the flats with. But you don't see like these big horsepower motors with like carpeted decks, just because the salt would just eat everything away. And so it was just something that was always fascinating to me. So when I finally like was able to get the boat, and I started putting on time on the California Delta and really starting to like work on the craft, like how do I maneuver, like how do I like boat positioning, like driving like a faster boat, and like all these different things. My friend was like, hey, I joined a bass club and I started doing local like bass club derbs. And I'm like, okay, like what is it? Well, you pay the dues of a local club, and then you just fish against the guys at like whatever A, B, or C lake. I'm like, dude, that sounds awesome. Like, I'm super down. And so the Google search, like, nearest bass club in California, and the Ventura County Bass Club popped up, and they were an hour north when I was living in Los Angeles at the time. And I reached out to them, and they're like, sure, yeah, we were actually Bass Nation associated, and we would love to have you. Like, you have a boat? I'm like, yep. They're like, come on in. And my first derby with them as a guest was off my home lake at the time, which was Castaic. And I ended up winning it. And
I bet they love that.
They were like, wait, who's this kid? It was this kid from what, like, what's this, like, this Matty Wong kid. And so that gave me the confidence to, like, hey, I can actually like hang out with these guys that have been tournament fishing for years. And that was something that, it was always something in the back of my mind that I wanted to do as a kid, because I'd always watch, the classic and stuff like that on TV. And so from there, I realized, okay, I'm going to start doing the club thing. I enjoy it. Start like learning different techniques. I never sea rigged ever until like literally 2018 was the first time I threw a sea rig. Because in Hawaii, we would throw a sea rig, but we throw it differently. And we call it a whipping setup, because you throw it mid column, and you throw it for small trevally, or papio, we call them, if they're under 10 pounds. And so you actually fish it mid to upper water column. So I've never, like, the concept of dragging a Carolina rig on the ground, like, never even, like, and then so when I found out about it, I was like, oh, that's like a whipping setup. Oh, that's kind of funny. And so this will also give people like ideas too.
Yeah. My brain's churning. I want you to elaborate on that for me. How does that work?
Yeah. So it's the same thing. So, I mean, for instance, when you're fishing for, there's a fish called akule, and it's a goggle eye scad or something like that, and it's a saltwater fish. You actually whip with a half-ounce lead to, I think 12-pound test mainline, and then your leader is 15 feet long. So like 2 or 3 arm lengths of 4 to 6 pound test. And so you use a 7-foot rod, and you do a half, like a roll cast out just to get your leader out. And then once it's out, you keep your rod tip in front of you, and you basically, what you do is when you draw a line as you're pulling your rod tip in, and then you go up and over, and you cast right over your shoulder. Kind of like a fly, like almost like a spade cast in a way.
Spade cast, yep.
Yeah. So it's kind of similar concept. So the way
it's all rod loading.
It's all rod loading, and the way that a couple times you'll like get whacked by your own fly and whatnot, but like once you kind of get the technique down, you can get pretty good at it. And what happens is, as the lead is going through the school, it's hitting. You can actually feel the lead like hitting the fish as it's going through the school. It's kind of like when you're going through a ball of shad. You're like, oh my god, yeah, I'm in the shad right now. Same thing. You can feel the lead, and what it's doing is parting the school, and then when the school comes back together, this little fly is coming through the school uninterrupted and then snacked on. And it's all upper water column. And so I learned like how to count down like that way. So a lot of the techniques that I've learned, or now that I see can transfer into bass fishing for me, I've learned in the salt. And then I've also I've learned how to perfect in the freshwater, or learn how to like use different techniques. It's like there's even like a certain technique that I don't see anyone doing in freshwater, and it's the funniest thing because it makes so much sense. But it's like just certain things that you just wouldn't put 2 to 2 together. And like for instance, I'm gonna give up the juice because this is what podcasts are about, right? Sharing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if he's not gonna tell me, I'm gonna lose my mind tonight. He's gonna be staring at the ceiling, like watching the moon.
Bailey's got like his pen. He's like,
yeah, he's like
I'll be studying the Hawaiian saltwater for the rest of my life just to figure out what it is.
There's so much nuances in saltwater fishing, and especially inshore game fishing in Hawaii and Hawaiian saltwater fishing that a lot of people can learn from. And there's incredible fishermen and fisherwomen that are in Hawaii that are just, they don't have access to a lot of different things. So what I'm saying is, so we whip with this thing, like if the conditions are windy or whatnot, it's a bubble float. And I know some people use it, for like float and fly or whatever. Like they'll use like a float and fly or in other instances, just different techniques. But you basically set it up like a Carolina rig again. But the float, you can actually fill up partially with water. So it has weight. And if you're utilizing that and a fly, you can immolate shad getting busted on. And I'll promise you, there's very, very, very few guys in bass fishing that are utilizing this technique.
Excuse me while I write this down.
But it's again, there's a few of these things, and I'll give you guys one. So that's the gem that I'll drop. But it allows you to get a really, really, really far cast because you're not utilizing like the weight of a lead or anything like that. It's the weight of the water. And then from there, it's all about cadence and retrieve. And depending on the type of fish that you're targeting, it's not going to have the darting spook action of a Zara spook or like a Levante, like a mega dog or something like that. But it's a different type of action that I guess the fish really also don't see that often too. There's a bunch of different techniques like that I use and grew up using in Hawaii that I also don't see a lot of guys using in the salt in freshwater.
So you're saying you've caught fish on them already in freshwater?
Maybe.
Maybe. Silence is the answer.
Yeah. No, it's
wicked cool.
It works. And a lot of tackle shops don't even carry it because they would be like, you can't use that to catch bass. And that's the best thing about bass fishing, right? There's no rules.
Yeah. It's true.
That's true.
And I think as soon as someone says that, like, no, you can't catch this on the my buddy Oliver and I was on my Mike Iaconelli's show recently, and he said, don't trust anyone who speaks in absolutes. And like, I'm also a firm believer in that. And it's funny, like, because it's true, man. Anyone who says, dude, no, the fish aren't gonna bite that. Why? Oh, it's sunny out. Like, Cape Pig talks about one of his favorite cranking situations is like post-frontal bluebird skies. Like, how do you think I won Louisiana?
Cranking.
It
Yeah,
was
it's like
cool.
people saying it's got to be cloudy and windy to get a good topwater bite when some of my best days are no wind whatsoever and sun as high as can be.
It's like calm, bright blue skies, post frontal. Like,
there's no
days
absolute,
that you're
no
like,
absolutes.
Bad.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about fishing. They don't read books. Everyone wants to think that they do. But it's at the end of the day, it boils down to time on the water, and it boils down to how much are you connected with that body of water and that species that you're chasing.
And keeping things honest.
And keeping things honest, because you'll never know. Like you said, like you'll have no clue. You'll fish practice, and you'll be throwing a chatterbait, whatever, and they're like, yeah, I'm not getting bit. I guess they're not eating the chatterbait. And then game day, you're like, oh, this looks kind of chatterbaity. You like throw it up there, get smoked by a chatterbait. Like, it's keeping things honest, always keeping your mind open, and understanding what you're targeting. Another thing that really helped me growing up and understanding that fish have different personalities was freediving. I spent a lot of time freediving and spearfishing, and I would, back before I've injured myself, like in my sinuses, try to freedive deep during a cold, and so I'm not able to go deep consistently now. But before, when I was younger, I could hunt in 60 feet, and being able to hunt effectively in 60 feet is, it's a thing. You get to see certain things that most people that are only diving 15 to 30 feet won't ever see. And it's the same thing. So for my friends that dive in 100 feet, they'll see stuff that I'm like, the deepest I've ever been is 80 feet. And I thought that was plenty deep. And I have friends that like hunt in like 100, 115 with like breath holds of close to four minutes. Yeah.
That's insane.
But you learn about fish behavior and certain things. It's just really unique. Like I know, like a Roy, or they call it a peacock grouper, they're inquisitive. They're so curious of what you are, what you're doing, that as soon as you make yourself present to them and you see one, you hide yourself instantly, because you know that Roy's going to come right around the corner trying to find you. He's
like a smallmouth looking for a crawfish.
Like a smallmouth looking for a craw. But there's so many, you have those. Yeah. That's cool. You're like that, for instance, it's like there's all these little different things that can help you at least understand. And I'm the first person to say I have a lot to learn about bass fishing and the sport. And I'm excited, and I'm especially excited to learn from all my new fellow competitors on the Elite Series and the way that they like approach and break down water. Like I'm a sponge when it comes to fishing. It's like the one thing, like throughout my whole life, I've been so passionate about. And so whenever anyone, like you guys sells, man, like we love fishing. Anyone who's so passionate in it that they live and breathe it, and that's their life. Like, I'm like, did we just become best friends? It's so hard, because when people like, I like to fish, and I'm like, oh yeah, really? Like I'll ask them one question, and then they're like, yeah, I love to use a mealworm and a bobber every 3 weeks with power, or power bait. And I'm not knocking people that use like mealworms and bobbers, if anyone's like tuning in and doing that, but like, because you got to start somewhere. But I'm saying, like, as soon as someone's like, dude, you want to see my tackle wall? And I'm like, yeah.
That's funny. I'm just sitting here. I got spark sheds in front of me. Like,
dude, twist my arm.
Yeah,
dude, it's awesome.
Do you know
stuff?
I love it, dude. That's so good.
Do you know Rob Matsura by chance?
I do know Rob. Yeah, we've never met in person, but we've been like social media buddies for a couple years now.
you will have a blast when you guys come up north to St. Lawrence River. I don't know if you ever fished it before, but Rob like has this thing every summer where he gets like his own island. He like stays on it for like a month and he free dives with smallmouth on the St. Lawrence River.
I seen that. I was like, bro, I'm in.
You said that, and that's the first thing I thought of. I'm like, this guy's gonna be great friends with Rob. And Rob in person is one of the coolest dudes, one of the nicest dudes I've met. He's a goof too. Like you'll enjoy him. You guys will have to connect because I think that you guys will be great friends just from what I've been hearing. But two, like the content you guys could create together would be wicked cool.
Yeah, that'd be super
awesome. But dude, I want to backtrack for a second because you said something that kind of got my ears perked, and you mentioned how much like what you're throwing, what techniques you're choosing is like how much you're connecting with that lake. And is there like a process you have maybe mentally or like when you're going into a brand new body of water that you've never been to that you kind of like a step process that you have to kind of like quote unquote, connect to that lake?
Yeah, I think, the first things first, right? When you get to the water, like I'll look at my meter obviously and see like what's the actual temperature, but I'll put my hand on the water, see what the clarity looks like. I mean, just like anyone else, like you go to a new lake, the first thing you immediately see as a human is, what's the water clarity? What are the conditions? I knew, I guess to give an example, let's just use Louisiana for an example. This was my first time there ever to Ouachita. And as much research as you can do online, because there's not that much content on that body of water. And so I knew that I even try to research like what kind of forage and stuff like that. Like I try to like, what are the food sources? What are the proteins that these fish are feeding on in this body of water? What is the time of the year that I'm going into this thing? So yeah, I do my homework obviously on the pre-end, but when I get there, I touch the water, see what's the temperature, with my dinosaur graphs, like literally see just whatever kind of hints that I can get, and depending on and through the internet, through learning from guys from the club, learning from all. There's so much information now that if you really sit down and take the time to weed through it, there's a lot of crap out there too, and a lot of people that like talk some crazy stuff. But even the guys that are talking crazy stuff will say like a little gem once in a while that you're like, dude, that was gold, man. Thank you for that. And I'm not gonna listen to the rest of this, but that was gold,
But I'll keep that one.
Yeah, like you pick and choose obviously what you want to listen to and what you dive into. But that, for me, like we had one lake in Hawaii, like Lake Wilson, and that was it. But when I got to what I try to do, I'm very grateful because I've been able to kind of travel around a little bit with my job prior to being Elite Series Pro. Oh, sounds so cool. I was a
fanboy.
I was a photographer, and I would travel around the world basically, whether I was shooting myself or I would be lighting for other photographers, and I would always try to like what?
Said Jamie Foxx.
Yeah, Jamie Foxx. I
do want to hear about that. That'd be really cool to hear about how that started.
Oh, dude, I can bore you with celebrity stories.
Was that a part of Capture Fish?
No, that was part of my. That was part of my career.
Just LA connections.
Yeah, I actually lit a campaign for MGM Grand, and Jamie Foxx was our talent for the day. And he came out. It was so funny. You thought like some of these guys, you think that they're gonna come out like playing rap music with their entourage or like doing whatever. And he's like, "Yo, play that Gautier song." I'm like, "Wait, what?" And he's like, "Somebody," and he's singing a Gautier song. I'm like, "Yo, dude, what?" And I'm like, "I can dig it."
He's just vibing and living.
Exactly, and that's
you can't be mad at that.
I'm such a huge Jamie Foxx fan. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, the way he holds himself, he's such a professional. The way he treats everyone, he's hilarious. He knows how to move. He's what they call the triple threat, right?
Yeah.
And he's the man. Like, Jamie Foxx is the man. Yeah, and he was super cool. I got to work with him a couple times. But yeah, I definitely can't say that about most of the people that I've worked with in Los Angeles. Yeah, but
I believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's backtrack that. I mean, I don't want to get you too off track, so I apologize for that. But I'm just very curious from Capture Fish, like how that started, and like what was the motivation behind it, and what did it lead into for you?
For sure. So when I was working in the photo industry, I have a lot of close friends that also live that grew up in Hawaii that moved to LA, and we remain close friends. And whenever I'd post like a picture of me like holding a bass, they're like, "Sweet fish pic, bro. Like, take it to 2." And they would just keep jabbing at me, like telling me like, yo, take it to 2, take it to channel 2, bro. And I'm like, whatever, bro. Like, this is like, I love this. And so it basically came to a point where I'm like, you know what? I have enough people and for me, it was like 100 people or something like that, that I was like, I know that 100 people that are following me like love my fishing stuff. And so I wanted to create something, one, that I can just be unapologetically myself and not get hazed by my other buddies who don't really like fishing. But then I also noticed that there's a kind of a gap in the fishing industry where, high quality images of baits and fish don't really, there's a couple people, I don't want to say that it doesn't really exist, but there's a couple people that know how to do it, but a majority and a lot of the main big companies don't really have great marketing images. And for me, I wanted to create a content suite where companies can come and get high level professional photography, whether it's a bait or if it's a bass or if it's like movement of water or a landscape, and be able to have this high-end professional experience. And that's what kind of led me to the second part, which was another dream of mine as a kid. Was I always wanted to have my own fishing show, like my whole life. Like, there was a guy named Mike Sakamoto who had a show in Hawaii called Fishing Tales. And every single Sunday I would watch Fishing Tales with my dad. So we'd watch the rerun of the Roland Martin or the Bill Dance on the VHS. And then here it goes, like Mike Sakamoto would pop on and he would have like a new adventure for the week. And I was so taken aside by like, wow, this guy gets to travel around and fish for a living and, be on TV. This is so cool. And my mom even told me recently, she's like, yeah, I remember you talking about this when you're 8 years old, like how you wanted to have your own fishing show, like Mike Sakamoto. And so for me, I even like, I made a pitch to the local station when I was 21. I was like, look, it's going to be a traveling fishing show, kind of like Fishing Tales, but a whole different spin on it. And they're like, great, we love it. And I'm like, wait, what? You guys really want to pick it up? And they were like, they're all for it. And that moment I was like, man, I don't know if I'm ready for this, because I was able to, it was too easily accomplished. And I felt like I was so young that no one was going to listen to me, because they're like, who's this kid? 1, 2, like what experience does he really have? And so I shelved it.
They called your bluff.
Yeah, they did. And I was like, oh, that's fine. Yeah. Cause I mean, I love fishing, but I don't also know how to, X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And so one of my other buddies, who's an actor in Los Angeles, was like, hey man, why don't you just start a YouTube? And why don't you just start doing it? Because there's no way that you're going to have this polished product of a fishing show if you don't start it. And the hardest part for anyone to do anything that they've always wanted to do and are nervous about it, like nervous about what people think, nervous about like, how's it going to turn out, is putting it out there. Because the fear of our own like insecurities of like people like, oh dude, that's trash, or like whatever like that. And I'm not sure if you guys even went through a similar like thing with doing a podcast. Like, I feel like everyone has their own like their own steps and going through it where you have to battle this thing. And so my buddy Ido was like, mate, he's from London. He's like, mate, he's like, just put it on the YouTube and it will get better. And I'm like, he's like, it's not going to be perfect. Just put it on the YouTube and it'll get better. I'm like, oh, Ido, you're right. It gets better, dude. I can give you an Aussie accent all day, mate.
Oh my God, that's gold.
Oh, dude. Oh, yeah. Don't get me started, dude. Don't get me started. But
no, that's so true, though. It really is. Like, even from the podcast standpoint, like when I first started, even probably maybe the first year, I was just talking fish. I had no idea what I was doing. I probably sounded like an idiot to most, and especially from the YouTube standpoint too. Like, I think the hardest part for some people is talking by themselves to a camera or to try to like lay out a story. And I don't think the hardest part is talking to the camera. I think it's the other side of who's going to see that and what they're going to think of, hey, you're talking by yourself to a camera, and like thinking about what that person's going to think of you. Yeah. But at the end of the day, like I was talking with a buddy of ours, Benjamin Nowak, who you probably know about. And basically early on in this, Serious Angler brand, I was talking with Ben and I was telling him about that. Like that was one of my hurdles. And Ben's been a good person for me to go to, like, with advice about this stuff. And he's like, dude, he goes, who cares? He goes, for the one person that might give it a thumbs down and hate it, there's 100 other people that are going to love it and enjoy your content and come back. So like that alone, that's like the thing I have in my mind with everything. Like, and that goes on to other people say, like, there's people, even listeners right now, that are in that same track of mind. Have that motto, because it's true. It really is. And the 100%. People that thumbs it down or don't like it are probably people that are just jealous that you're able to do it. So,
hating.
Exactly.
They're haters, man. Keyboard warriors, but those little thumbs down, like, again, like ticks at our ego or whatever, that like, ooh, or whatever. But it's, at the end of the day, if what you're doing makes you happy and makes you so stoked, and that you get this feedback from certain people that are like, yo, I love what you're doing, like that trumps everything else. Like, and so, yeah, dude, I'm stoked that you kept it going. And I'm stoked that you guys are doing this, because this is cool. It kind of like it validates. It validates this, And for anyone who wants to start a YouTube or anything like that, it's work. It's work. And the same thing with the podcast. It's work. But if you're passionate in it and you're willing to put in the time and you're willing to be consistent,
hard work pays off.
It pays off. And I'm still small peanuts, dude, in the YouTube space. I got I'm almost to 3,000 subs. But I'm loving every single bit of it. And I've, I haven't missed a single episode in almost 2 years now. And I do a weekly episode drop every Monday. And, and the amount of people we just did a swim bait toy drive down in SoCal, which was like a cool, Butch Brown talked at it, and a bunch of the swim bait manufacturers came around and donated a bunch of stuff for the kids. And it was so cool because a couple people came up to me and they're like, yo, bro, like, I've been following Capture Fish, like, since you started the thing, man. Like, I've learned so much, and da-da-da-da. And I'm like, it's so cool to meet people in person, and to actually connect with these people that, listen to your podcast or watch your YouTube and actually be like, dude, I loved your stuff. Or like, can you do more of this? Or like, that's kind of stuff. And so, yeah, it's always really encouraging, and don't let people put you down for what you truly want to do. So,
dude, hell yeah. And that being said, too,
we've been all over the place.
And I'm going to sidebar you again here after Bailey says what he wants to say, because I have a question.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I was just going to plug real fast that every show we like to connect our guest social media so that people can reach out more in case there's new people that maybe don't follow or haven't heard of our guests. But if you haven't tuned into the Capture Fish YouTube or Matty's social media in general, that'll be whether on YouTube or MP3. It'll be in the show notes, so you guys can go follow along. And
thank you so much.
I just subbed, so just so
one closer to 3,000
+1. So, quick sidebar: San Diego, East County Bait and Tackle. Have you ever been to that tackle shop?
East County. I can't say I have, man.
It's a bad little swim bait shop. You got to go.
Really?
Yeah, I went there when I was in San Diego a couple years ago. Incredible.
Oh, rad.
Yeah.
So cool. Dude,
Roman Maids, Mega Bass, like all the expensive ones. They have an entire back wall just hanging.
Oh,
like,
that's rad.
They might even had Hinkles while I was there.
Dude.
Yeah, like they had $300, $400, $500, $600 swim baits on the back wall.
Yeah, dude, Hinkles are wild. Those Romans are nuts. Like,
yeah.
For me, I'm like, oh, it's like right on the cusp. Like you'll see, like I got a couple like depths and then like I slide 262s and stuff like that. But like the real cherry ones are those lunker bunkers right there. I just there's certain like for me, I cap off at about 150 a bait. Anything more than that, I'm just like, ooh.
Yeah,
like 150. I cap off at $20, man.
That's because we're not in the swim bait world.
No, I go for Savage Gear. I can't remember this freaking name. Shine
Glide.
As far as
dude,
I go.
Shine Glides are legit, man.
They are legit for $20.
I ain't gonna hate on them, dude. Like my buddy is the Savage Gear rep, and he sent me some stuff and I got to play with it. But since I'm with Le Mega Bass, I can't really talk too much about it. But yeah, it's no, hey, for people that are looking for an entry level thing, dude, I think it's perfect because the more people and what I've come to realize, and certain people are like, Salty, you're spot burning. Like, oh, that's my technique. Anyone that's new to the sport that want to get into a certain technique or even into fishing and something draws them in, whether it's a swim bait or throwing a spinner bait or hooking on a mealworm, do it, man. Because that just builds the fishing industry on a whole. That just helps everyone out at the end of the day. And yeah, there's certain people that just like hate on it because they're just like all grumpy and salty about it. It's like, no, man, the more people in the fishing, more people that, that love the sport, that means they're going to spend more money. That means that supporting the brands that we love to support. And then those people get to pay out more people. And it just spreads the love around. And it just gets better, and the fish don't go anywhere, man. Unless and the cool thing is now everyone's kind of switched over to this whole catch and release thing, which is I think it's good, and it's also bad depending on what you're looking at or what fisheries
and body of waters.
And body of waters, exactly.
Because if you release too many, it can actually stunt the population and create a smaller population of large fish. So
I completely agree. And I love harvesting fish, but I mostly harvest fish out of the salt. Even though I did eat a walleye for the first time recently.
So good. Did you cut the cheeks?
Gosh.
Please tell me you cut the cheeks.
Oh, dude, cheeks. I eat eyeballs, bro. I don't.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's as long as the fish is fresh and eyeball is fair game. But like there's so much good meat, and I was really surprised. I was like, this thing is really, really tasty, and also crappie too. I didn't eat crappie until I moved out to California, and that kind of blew my mind too.
Personally, I think perch might be better than walleye.
Really?
Like jack yellow perch out of the Great Lakes, like 12, 14 inches. Yeah. Way better than walleye.
Really? Do they have like a bunch of like pin bones that you have to remove, or you just fry the whole thing?
If you go to fry the whole thing, you would have to remove some pin bones. But if you fillet them really good, they're incredible.
Oh man,
because they're just smaller walleye.
All right, well, we're gonna do a fish cookout when I come up there.
You gotta come in April right after ice out.
Oh, okay.
or now. Like October through December, there's a good perch bite.
That's crazy, man. Yeah, I love eating fish. I mean, I love eating. For me, it's like I won't eat freshwater fish raw, but saltwater, like that's one of my favorite ways to eat fish. Salt, like is raw sashimi, poke style.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't recommend eating freshwater fish raw.
I wouldn't recommend that to anyone either.
But yeah, dude, when you guys make your northern swing, you are more than welcome to pit stop here in Buffalo if you need be. And
dude, that would be super, super rad, man. I'd really like that. I'd really
Me and Bailey live about 8 minutes from each other, so
get out. Really?
Yeah, we can figure something out. Yeah. So Little backstory on me.
Yeah.
I'm sure all of our listeners hate this by this point, but I'm a full-time guide on Lake Erie out of Buffalo, New York.
No way.
Yeah, I fish for a living. Bass from April through October, and then I steelhead fish the rest of the winter.
Oh, dude. Do you with steelhead? Are you like doing drifts or?
Yep, just float fishing from walking wader trips. For
Okay.
now, next year, if I can get enough bass trips through the summer, I'm going to buy a raft.
Oh, rad! Get like a Flycraft or something.
Exactly, stealth craft, probably like a Hooligan XL or something like that.
Oh wow, that's cool. Yeah, I love, dude. I got a 8. Oh god, I got an 8 weight and a 5 weight right behind me.
Nice.
Yeah, dude. I just all of it. I don't discriminate.
We're back to the I know some of these words stage. I don't know what any of these words mean.
You're like,
I'll throw a loop for you.
Hablo español.
I fish a single bearing center pin float reel, so it's a single bushing. It just rotates kind of like a big float, like a big fly reel, but it's with monofilament. It free spins with current, so your float gets dragged by the current, and it just and the reel free spins.
Wow, that's
so
rad.
It's as natural as possible. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
I'm going to Google 90% of these terms.
You're like, what is this?
I got some my raspy voice that you can hardly hear. So,
oh my gosh,
that's so rad. Yeah, that's special. I think anyone that decides to go into the nature, to go and target fish and whatever technique they decide to employ, I think that just connects everyone, right? And whether or not they understand it or they don't, or they haven't experienced it, it doesn't, there's no like highbrow for me in my life. And I know that, certain people like fly fishermen be like, oh, you throw gear. And like,
we get that here.
Like bass guys are like, oh, yeah, yeah, it's like, dude, come on, bro. Like, we all love being outside. Like, get off your high horse.
Fish.
Yeah. It's like, dude, and that's the thing. Those are the barriers that I just like, I can't even like waste my time.
I got a really good story for this. If we want to talk about fly fishermen. So
he's like, come at me, bro.
Yeah. Since early last April, I started working full-time in PR in the fishing industry. And my boss, her name is Jen Ripple. She's a badass. She's like a full-time fly fisherman, but she started and runs Done magazine. So she's full-blown in the fly world. And it was like my first month working there. We went to Spirit Lake, Iowa, where the Berkeley plant is. And we go out to fish one of the days out on Spirit Lake, which is an insanely good fishery. Like, they are dumb, never seen baits before. So if you get a chance to go there, like, they're just stupid. Like, 100 fish days all time of year, it's dumb. So either way, this time of year they were spawning, and me and Brad Rutherford, who's the pro staff manager at Pure Fishing, we're going like, all right, we're gonna go out. Jen, you want to come with us? She's like never caught a bass on conventional tackle before. She wanted to catch her first one. I'm like, yeah, it's gonna be super easy. They're spawning right now. We can go catch them. She goes, what, spawning? She goes, no, that's really bad. That's really messed up. You can't catch fish spawning. She goes, off the red, and I'm like, the hell's the red? What do you mean red?
Red, yeah.
Because like I've heard that's what they call. Yeah, for trout, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, what is a red? And she goes, spawners. That's what they call it. And I'm like, we call it beds. And she's like, no, it's reds. And I thought she was like misinterpreting what beds were. And we went back and forth for like 20 minutes. And Brad and I just looked at each other and goes, we're going to go fish for spawners. Do you want to come or not? And she ultimately came with us, went fishing for them. She's like, this feels so wrong. We're like, but it feels so right.
It feels so right.
They go back. I mean, it doesn't hurt the fishery.
No, yeah. No, we're like, she's like, you guys fish for spawning fish? We're like, yeah, like bass fishing, that's a thing. Like, some people are against it, but the rest of us are like, hey, I'm going to catch that dang thing. I can see it. I'm going to catch it.
Yeah. It's so much fun.
But yeah, for now, since then, I always tease her, like, as I got home back to New York and stuff, she'd ask me what I was doing for the weekend. I was like, I'm gonna go fish for spawning fish, like just to screw it. But it's cool to see different sides of fishing and like fly fishing, how they have like a whole different code and like honor system and how it all works. But
they're not all like that.
Yeah, no.
FYI, you can tell a fly fisherman from a fly fisherman.
Yeah,
it's kind of funny, like. The fly fisherman is like strict to a code. Like they have 2 different rods. They have sinking tip, floating tip. They have flawless casting presentations, and then you get your fly fishermen that have like a 4-ounce weight and they're plunking. So like there's 2 different types, and I respect one, not the other.
It's funny. No, it's crazy, man. I mean, to touch on like the whole bedding thing is, I think with bass, like as long as like their eggs are developing way before they even get on the bed. Yeah. And as long as you're treating that fish with respect and you're not like live welling that fish, I mean, that's the only thing that's kind of tough, because like for derbs and stuff like that, when they'll do like big tournaments during the spawn, like that's just the thing that kind of like and I think that kind of sucks. I mean, but it is what it is, because at the end of the day, like everyone wants to see giant basket weighed, and it's just the time of the year that it happens. But
the business side I get for sure. It's like, but like when they have 1,000 boat tournaments on Lake Chickamauga during the spawn, that's where it's like, all right, I mean, come on. Like, I mean, even when I'm fishing for spawning fish, like, so I fish predominantly out of a kayak, just for the pure fact of, well, 1, it's fun, but 2, I can't afford a trucking boat yet. But like when I'll fish for spawners in the kayak, and especially if it's windy, I'll get blown away from that bed by the time like I can get it up. I'll keep it in my net in the water, and I want to get a good picture, especially if it's a big one. So I'll get a picture of it. By that time, I'm like, say 30 to 50 yards away, and I'm sure it can find its way back, but like I'll make an effort to keep it in the net, pedal back to the bed, and make sure it gets back to the bed. But like, cool. I mean, some stuff like that, like those big tournaments, that some of it's like, I do like seeing them the scales, but the environmentalist, the conservationist in me is like, man, we can catch those. I don't know. It's tough. It goes.
It's tough. It's like you're weighing out, this sense of, what's good for the sport and what's good for the fishery.
Yeah, personally, in my opinion, I don't think there should be any spawning tournaments, just because let them do their deal. But I understand the money aspect side of it. Like, now that I've been able to put a lot more time on the water, I know how to catch fish without catching them on beds. So it's become even more fun, because I've learned how to target post-spawn and pre-spawn fish
pre-spawn
at the same time. It's dumb.
So fun. Fun.
One of my buddies, Casey Smith, said it kind of perfect. And like, we as fishermen love catching fish, obviously. But there's something about when you get really serious about this game that there's this feeling that when you figure something out and you find those fish and it clicks and you get your first bite, trying something completely new, or like really putting the work in to do it, that there's nothing that'll beat that feeling of like, I just figured them out. And then you run that and it works, and you can like everywhere. You can run that path. That is the best feeling ever. More than getting that tug is that feeling of like, I figured it out.
Yeah, like, accomplishment.
Like, yeah, you feel like a genius.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I am a mad genius.
That's the like the feeling that hits the best.
Yeah.
Oh, totally, man. I just recently did a video on a little selfless plug on go to my YouTube channel, subscribe, turn on your notifications.
Plug away.
But I do a thing on how I break down. I think I need to change my thumbnail, because it's like how to new lake fall front with like, and it just kind of like me just pointing off. But it's a lake I've never been to in Oklahoma, and it was during a front, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna bring you guys along, and I'm gonna kind of talk about through my process of like what I'm doing, and I ended up getting. I wanted them to eat a chatterbait and a spinnerbait. Like in my head, I was like, oh, okay, 4 to strain. Like they're gonna smoke a chatterbait right now. Water's kind of tannic, like game on. No, they ended up they wanted a jerkbait coming out of the grass, and I wrecked them. And it was super, super fun as soon as I figured it out. And then I just kept like putting it down, because I'm like, like people like locally that that know me and follow the channel know that I love throwing a rip bait. It's one of the techniques that I've done growing up in Hawaii, and something that's followed with me all the way till now. Something that I'm like, extremely confident in. And so I was like, I don't want to keep throwing it, because everyone's gonna be like, yo, of course you got into a rip bait bite. And so I picked up a swim jig, and I ended up like getting a couple on a swim jig, but I actually had to switch out my trailer. And that's what actually they wanted, a cross style trailer versus like a boot tail. But yeah, it's fun when you can go to a new body of water and break it down and figure it out. Kind of like going back to like connecting, but I wasn't able to really, I was like almost getting blown off my boat because the wind they would have gusts, like it would be like 15, 20 miles per hour. And then a gust of like 40 would blow through and almost blow me off my boat. And I'm like, dude, we don't get this kind of like, I'm the only one out on this small lake. I should be careful because I'm on my way to the nationals and I don't want to get blown off. And yeah,
I hear that.
Wild,
dude. So, what kind of angler would you say you are? I mean, are you a finesse guy, a power fisherman? Like, what if you had to classify?
I like to power fish. I mean, who doesn't, right?
Right.
It's tough, when people ask that question because it's, I am what I need to be for that time. Like I will pick up a rod with 5-pound test and drop shot and be completely content. I mean, obviously in the back of my head, I want to catch him on a swim bait or like something like that, but I'm not afraid to pick up a spinning rod and go to town. Like I'm not like the guy that's like, fairy wand. Like, dude, it's a tool. You knock the fairy wands?
No, it's just funny because like circling back, I guide on Lake Erie, so 90% of the fishing I do is fairy wand fishing. But I'm like, I just want to get out and crank. Like I want to crank through a chatterbait, jig fish. Like Bailey makes fun of me all the time. He's like, "Why do you want to go largemouth fishing? You can go catch small." He's like, "Because I'm bored."
Yeah, it's like, dude, because I have a spinning rod in my hand all the time. I want to like swing a jig hook or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, that's
and see, I'm like the opposite. I love having a spinning rod in my hand. There's something about finessing to me that's so much fun.
Dude, so much fun. Like the sound of drag, bro, on a spinning rod, like just that doesn't get old. Like that's just something that's so pure in that moment that it just will never get old. So yeah, I love to power fish. I love to, I love to finesse fish. I love to throw big baits, but I just think there's a time and a place for everything. And I even like to fly fish, but it's like, again, I want to be like hiking in some magical like space, to throw a fly rod. But like, besides that, I do it all. I vertical jig when I'm back home in Hawaii in 200 feet for amberjack. Like I just love fishing.
That's my saltwater, like top of my bucket list.
Bro, let's go, dude. Both you guys. If you guys are ever out
on that,
dude, if you guys are ever out in Oahu and I'm there, I'll put you guys on some crazy stuff, man. We'll have fun. Like Andy, your vertical, your shoulder gets sore, but like you're vertical jigging in like 200-300 feet, and when you hit one, it feels like you hit a brick wall. Like it feels like you snag bottom.
Not ripping vertical jigging, right? It's where you drop it down, you reel it up real fast, and pause it and kill it and drop it back down.
That's one technique. Like and like sometimes they'll eat it, but I'm doing 1 1 1 1 stop 1 1 stop 1 1 1 1 1 1, and then
also it's like, oh god,
and then and you're just holding on. Oh god.
Yeah, screw the gym, man. I want to do that.
Oh, dude, you're toast. Like I say, like you catch two that are like 20 pounds. Like even if you hook into one that's like, even like a 20-pounder, bro, will put you to work. And and if you can't turn their head, they'll go straight underneath the cave and cut you off. Or you'll get one up like 200 feet, and then a shark will come and just maul it, and you're like, oh, that's a shark.
Son of a.
No. That's insane.
Because you got a hammer on them to get them in before the shark comes. Because there's so many sharks.
Yeah, that's where the reef is really healthy, right? Is when there are a healthy population of sharks. But yeah, like that's we used to do this thing growing up called slide bait, and you hike along the cliffside that breaks off into pelagic water, so like 60, 80 feet deep of water, and there's like open ocean swells smashing against the cliff. And there's where the old timers would build huts and drill holes into the side of the cliffs. And you go out with 12 to 14 foot rods that were traditionally bamboo, but you put on a big like 4/0 Penn Senator boat reel, and you cast 8 to 10 ounce leads. And you get them hung up in the reef. It's not, I mean, again, being the environmentalist, like you actually hang up a lead purposefully in the reef. And then you get a clip and it basically like it's like a curly cue with like a snap at the end, and you clip it on your line. Like once your line's taut, like really taut, clip it on your line, and you slide your bait down. So you slide down an octopus, you slide down a live bait, whatever it is, and you tie down all your stuff with rope, and you put a big cowbell on your rod, and you go back to your camp, and you're within like an earshot of the lineup, as we call, and you basically wait, and it's like saltwater catfishing in a way.
Yeah,
And
catching big amberjacks.
yeah, and so if you go and like look, well, not amberjack, but GTs. So we call them ulua. So anything over 10 pounds in the trevally, you call them ulua, and then if they're smaller than 10 pounds, you call them papio. It's just a juvenile, whatever.
Freaking awesome fish.
Oh,
they're so powerful.
They're so fun, man. And like, especially like in the middle, like you'll go to sleep in a hut, or you'll go to sleep in like a tent that you make, and like after you like cooked up some food and like maybe drank a couple beers with your friends and like just like hanging out, talking story, whatever. Oh, it's like karang karang karang. You just hear like the drag of a big boat reel going, and everyone like wipes their eyes, like turns on their headlamp, and everyone like everyone ties their rods differently with like reflective tape.
Yeah.
And so everyone has a different pattern. And so that's like, it's like, yo, Weston, it's your pole. And then like, okay, you run out, and then you like grab your buddy like by his jacket, and you make sure that like he's not going to go over, because you know
because they're pulling so hard.
And people die, man. Like I lost a buddy 2 years ago sly baiting out on the cliffs. And so it's one of those things, like it's hardcore, dude. It's nuts. You know, like a wave will come up and take out a whole cliff, and like it will go all the way up to the huts in certain areas, or will wash out an entire ledge. Like I can't tell you. Yeah.
Catching GTs, freaking incredible.
GTs, man, and they don't even taste that good. It's all for the flex.
Pure power. Yeah. Have you ever watched a Grand Trevally video, Bailey?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
They're insane.
Dude, there's one that you guys got to see if you haven't seen it already. I think it's like Planet Earth or Blue Planet. I forgot what the doc was, but they video these GTs up in, I think, the Northwest Hawaiian Islands, and they're jumping out of the water eating frigate birds.
Jeez,
I have seen that.
Dude, they are insane. They're like just such apex predators, man. Like, so when people like get all finessey, they're like, I only slide mono. I'm like, why do you slide mono? They're like, well, because if the moon's big, they can see the wire. And I'm like, you really think they care about wire? Like, dude, they're vacuum cleaners, bro. They see something that smells good or that's kicking, like, gone.
Yeah,
it's gone.
My dream saltwater trip is I want to go to Costa Rica chasing rooster fish.
Oh, dude, I still haven't. I want to catch one so bad.
Yeah, those things are insane. And they catch them on top, if I remember correctly, too.
Yeah, you catch them on top water. My buddy Robert Fields, I think he does like our Fields on YouTube. He like has like a place down in Panama. And they go and catch like rooster fish all the time. And so he's like posting that stuff. I'm like, dude, you suck, man.
Yeah. And those big like feather fins on top of them, they just look surreal.
So cool. They're just so cool.
Yeah. Well, dude, I wanted to backtrack really fast and just say sorry about your friend, man. That
stinks.
If there's a way to go out, I mean, at least he went out doing something pretty badass.
Yeah. It was a tragic one. It was like one of those ones you just don't ever expect it, I wasn't there, so I didn't really. It was rough for my other buddy who's like was there and like actually had to witness it. But yeah, it's just one of those things, man. Life's too short, dude, and do it doing the things that you really enjoy. And I know he went out doing what he exactly loved to do. So just adds another
either way. Yeah,
it does suck. Yeah. So
well, dude, I don't want to add any depressing mantra to this show, but just wanted to make sure that was known, that we didn't just skim over that.
Apologies.
No worries.
I'll take the fall on that one.
All good.
No, okay. But I wanted to build on what we were talking about earlier as an angler, and now that you're an Elite Series Pro, and you could take a second to take that in again. That yes, that's real. But now all these pros, you hear people talk about, it basically now you're building your legacy. I think is really what it is. These guys that when they exit the sport or like they do something in the sport, they're known as, we'll use Aaron Martens for example, like finesse guru, right? And that's what people are known for. And like Jason Christie, he's like a power fishing, he's a spinnerbait jig guy. That's what he's known for. If there's a technique that you're going to be known for, either one, what do you I want to really ask what you think it'd be, but what do you want that to be?
That's a great question, man. That's a great question.
I didn't think any of this would be the question that would stump him tonight.
Yeah,
me either. But wow.
Yeah, I just it's an impactful question because, like you said, legacy. And when I think of legacy, I think of legends, and I think of people that I look up to. Like I look up to like KVD. I look up to Brendan Polinick. I look up to Aaron Martens, obviously, and the greats before them. Like Bill Dance throwing a spinnerbait, or Roland Martin, or Jimmy Houston. Like, and Aaron, being just an absolute beast at drop shotting, like was an absolute beast at frog fishing.
Right. That's what people are talking about. Is like he's an insanely good flipper, and no one really.
He's incredible at flip. You go back and you watch like the Havasu footage, like the Havasu footage of him flipping. Like what? Like it, and that's the thing that, and I think what stumps me is it's tough because when you get labeled as an apex this or an apex that, it puts you into a hole or a pigeonhole, and that's all people think about you. And I just want to be remembered as like the kid that came on tour and just shook stuff up from Hawaii. Like I just
a bubble float.
Yeah, like I just want to I want to enjoy my time that I have on tour. I want to make connections with incredible people and nurture new relationships. I want to learn new techniques. I want to learn new bodies of water. Every single body of water. Yeah, and it's just to soak it all in, and to really answer the question, I can't say that I have a single technique that I do want to be known for, because I want people to remember, or I want, it sounds so morbid, like when I'm gone, I want people to be able to remember me as like this all around fisherman who just loved the sport and loved bass fishing, obviously, but also loved saltwater fishing and just loved being in nature and loved connecting people with each other who also love fishing. Like I think that's like the gift of being like an angler, right? Is sharing that experience with someone else. And eventually I want to have a family. I don't have kids. I don't got like a serious girlfriend. I don't got a wife. I want to eventually, and I want them to be like, man, like that dude, dad did this, and that was so cool because he taught me how to fish, and I love fishing now. Or like or someone else, like even if you teach any kid how to fish, and the stoke that they get in the fire that you can like you watch them or like they light up when anyone, even they could be 70 years old if they've never went fishing for the first time, and they get a fish and they're pulling drag, dude. They'd be lying if they look at you and say that this is boring, because they light up. Whether or not their preconceived notion of fishing is like bobber fishing on a dock, sitting there for hours and just drinking beer, and then they go out with a bass fisherman and see like, wow, you actually have to be like pinpoint accurate with these casts and present this thing perfectly. They get a whole different perspective and a whole new like relationship with it until they even catch one, and it blows their mind. And that's the moment that you like, boom, that was cool. I just made a difference in your life. And you can't hooked, gut hooked, bro. Yep. Like cut the line, let that thing rust out, because you're stuck, dude. Like it's just one of those things. So that's a trick question. I wish I had a straight answer, but that's kind of how I feel about it.
No, I think that's the perfect answer. I respect the hell out of that, dude.
Oh, thanks, man.
I think that just shows your love for the fishery and the sport we have. But like, you kind of hit it on the head too. It's like I don't want to be around the people that don't light up more. Like when they see someone else catch a fish, they light up more than when they catch a fish. I don't want to be around somebody that doesn't light up like that. Like I get more excited when I see other people catch fish than when I catch fish. Like if you're not like that, I don't know if I want to hang out with you. Like
no, like you're just like you just suck if you're like all salty. I mean, unless you're on the back seat of my boat during a tournament and you're sacking them.
Besides a tournament situation.
Hey, dude, even in and you'll see the tournament footage come out because I'm slowly releasing it. I haven't been able to fish basically ever since the win. I've been just balls to the wall, like working on my laptop, meetings and podcasts and whatnot. So I actually haven't been able to fun fish at all. But I know it will I'll have plenty of fishing time coming very soon.
A lot of fishing time.
And so I am releasing it. This coming Monday's episode will be my first practice video on Ouachita River, and so people will start to see my process. I actually kind of I'm doing a part series of it, and people can go back and kind of see from like when I left Ventura and started the road trip, and kind of come on this journey with me. And then I'm going to go all the way to winning the thing. And it's funny because after I won it, it's like a spoiler. I actually don't even talk to the camera like at all because after then I was just completely inundated with like emotion and just by everything else. And I kind of kick myself now looking back. Like I really wish I had like I vlogged that reaction, but I think people will see through whether it's my friends' reaction videos or it was my own reaction video on stage, or anything after, like how impactful that win meant to me and how much like that really changed my life. It's I'm excited to share it with everyone else. And so yeah, dude, it's a crazy journey, dude, and I'm excited and I want to.
Heck yeah, dude.
Sweet.
I can't wait to watch it. That'll be really good. And
go back and watch the other stuff.
And that'll be binged. Trust me.
Okay, sweet deal.
But hopefully that alone, like that channel is creating a lot of, Matty Wong fans, but you created 2 new Matty Wong fans here tonight. And hopefully this show gets thousands more. So
a little sub bar here. That's one thing I love about this is all the people that we get to meet, because I just find myself subbing everybody's YouTube and putting notifications on. So as soon as a new video drops, I'm like, all right, I'll watch it, because I know once you hit a certain point how much it helps as well.
Dude, really does. Yeah, really does. Well, dude, that means a lot. Thank you, Bailey, and thank you, Andy. Like I appreciate it.
No problem.
That's what we do this thing for, is one, because we like to learn. We like to talk to people like you that actually know how to fish so that we can learn more about fishing. But then it also gives, people platforms to teach and also, kind of build their brand and spread awareness to a brand. Like it's pretty cool the messages we get over time of like, hey, I've never really heard of this guy before and just started watching all his content. And then you see them commenting on their stuff about learning stuff. And that was the whole goal from the beginning. It's just to teach. Not like it's a way for us
all
to
about
learn at the same time. Yeah.
Dude, and that's the cool thing, like about this age. I mean, we have all the negatives that come with it. Like, there's definitely the negative side to social media. There's definitely the negative side to the over amount of information, right? That's on the internet
too. Yeah.
But we can also take the positives too, right? And like you said, it's about connecting people with other like-minded individuals who love the sport and love the community and want to be able to reach out. And and I'm if I'm available to answer anyone's questions or a DM, like, dude, I'm about that. Like, I know other people in this industry, like once they blow up, like it's like they're like, oh, dude, like they leave everyone on red, and like it's like I'm so stoked and so humbled to be in my position. And if I can encourage or if I can inspire anyone else who's like fishing grassroots Bass Nation derbs to like do it and like just persevere, because there's the chance, dude. As long as your line's in the water, you have a chance. As long as you're out there doing it, there's a chance. Like it can happen, and I want to be I am the proof of it, man. Like I did not think if I were going to ask myself this going into it, like that my life would be changing and I would be getting rid of this whole apartment that I literally just set up like less than a year ago. Like I would laugh, and then I would start crying. It was like
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah, my life changed. But also another thing, visualize. And the importance of visualization and the importance of staying positive and that the worst thing, dude, the worst thing you can do is self-doubt, and the worst thing you can do is talk down on yourself. And so I want to encourage just like anyone and everyone to, like, as soon as you start to pull in any type of negativity into your head, and sometimes I have to listen to my own advice too, that's the most cancerous thing you can do to yourself and your dreams, is to self-doubt yourself. And so, build yourself up and set goals that are higher than what you think. And on my dry race board, and I have two of them, and one of them is my calendar. When I had the nationals up there, and it was something I was looking forward to the whole year. Right above the nationals time spot, I wrote a giant win above the nationals. Yeah. And
you self-willed it,
dude. It's crazy, man. And it happened twice before I even got there. Once I was in Albuquerque on the way there. I just froze my ass off all night in a like trying to sleep in my truck. It was like 30 degrees. I know it's not cold for you guys, but I was freezing. But
it's pretty chilly, but good sleeping weather.
Yeah, great sleeping. So I wake up and I'm driving, and I look over my passenger seat, which was empty, and I visualized a trophy with a seatbelt around it. And I envisioned that. And then when I got to, which is going to come out, I think, next week, Monday, when I got to nationals, when I walked up to the meeting, there's a mandatory angler meeting that I almost missed. The boat was in front, and I made a joke to my buddy, which was kind of also not a joke. I was like, "Hey, look, my boat's here." And like when I listened back on the video, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is wild."
Perfect. It's perfect.
Yeah, it's wild.
But dude, awesome. That mentality can, Andy and I've talked about it a little bit on the show, is that could be correlated to any facet of life, but from a tournament standpoint too. And I think it was Palaniuk that said it, that, the week leading up to a tournament, before he goes to bed, he's visualizing the win every night before that tournament. Because if you're not in the mindset of to win and be successful, then you've already lost.
Yep.
Like on tournament morning, you're sitting there, you're like, oh crap, like so-and-so's fishing, like don't even stand a chance today. Like if you have those thoughts in your head and you're going to try to be successful in tournament fishing, don't even bother. Like it's just, that's not the right track mind at all.
Agreed. Yeah, dude. I talked to Brandon earlier today. He's kind of like, I was picking his brain about rigging and stuff like that. And he's been like, it's crazy. Cause I'm like, bro, like you're the legend that I'm get a call up on the phone now. Like, I'm like, dude, he's such a cool dude. But I'm like, like you said, his mindset and the way that he attacks things, I'm like, I'm just looking forward to like nurturing a friendship with him, going forward. And everyone that I've talked to so far on the elites have been like more than like super rad and receptive people. John Cruz, like Zaldane, like all these dudes, like just so freaking cool that I'm like, yes. Like I'm just like stoked, to know that, because there's, when you meet people online or when you watch people online and whatnot, you have an idea of how that person's going to be in real life, but you can't really like put it together until you get to meet them. And so for me to like actually have these conversations with them on the phone, I'm like, dang, dude, like I'm stoked that you're that person, because there's certain celebrities that you meet and you're like, dude, you suck.
I don't like you.
I don't like you. And I liked you before. You suck. But awesome. Yeah, dude.
But Andy, you got anything left for Matty here before we hit him with our last question?
Just real quick.
Mm-hmm.
What is going to go through your mind? I know it's hard to say when you roll up to that first Elite Series event of the year your first tournament day, what do you think is going to go through your head?
Oh man.
Holy shit.
No, that's the
Like,
last thing that I want going
You
through my head.
you pull your boat in, you got Rick Clunn on the left and Brandon Polinick on your right. Like, you're like, oh God.
It's gonna be a fun episode to watch, so tune in. I think
prelude.
it's a dream come true, man. It really is. I'm watching bass fishing, for a while and enjoying tournament fishing and learning like tournament fishing, like, and seeing these guys on TV and watching, the fact that I get to fish against these guys now and actually put my, like, what I've accumulated on my short time on this earth up against what these guys have done and what they're continue to do. Like, I'm just excited. Like, I'm pumped because I'm like, either I sink or I swim. It's gonna be something, man. And like,
You get
going
2
into
years,
Florida,
right?
I get 2 years, minimal 2 years, which is exciting. I get, and hopefully I get to which is another one of my goals, is I want to requalify for the classic for next year. I think it's more so for me when I get to the classic at Hartwell, it's going to be like a big moment for me. I'll be pre-fishing on my birthday. And
that's awesome.
It's the best birthday present I could possibly think of, like pre-fishing for the classic. Like, I've never been to a classic personally. I've only watched them on TV. And so the fact that the first classic I get to go to is the one I'm fishing is pretty special, man. And so
absolutely,
the classic is a lot of fun. And dude, I'm pumped because I'll be able to see you there. I'll be working that event, so I'll make time to come find you.
Dude, yeah, please.
That'll be a lot of fun. But Andy, anything left before we hit him with the last question?
Go ahead, man.
All right. Matty, so this is the last question of the night, and it's the one that we ask at the end of every show with somebody that is new. It's their first time on the show.
Okay.
And that is, if you could sit down with 3 individuals, they could be currently present, live 1,000 years ago. It doesn't matter. It doesn't even have to be the fishing industry. So you could sit down with 3 individuals, have a beer, have a steak, pick their brain. What 3 individuals are you going to invite? I always enjoy the dead air after this question.
No, that's
complete dead air. I watch like the larynx; they're kind of jumpy. He's like, I really got to think about this one.
No, because I want to give a good answer. I want to give a good, honest answer.
Yeah, it's fair.
Jamie Foxx will DJ this occasion as well.
Maybe we should have that in. And who would your DJ be?
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. I think one of them would be my grandfather.
Hell yeah.
I never got to meet the guy. And so I've always, I've heard stories from my aunts and uncles or family, like what he was like, or, and what characteristics or mannerisms or whatnot. So I think that would be one of them. Be interesting to kind of see what things I've picked up, just like, I guess, genetically or hereditarily, like similarities there. Bruce Lee would be really cool.
I don't think we've ever gotten Bruce Lee on this show before.
Nope, not that I'm aware of.
All right, sorry, carry on.
Not only because he's his Hollywood persona, legendary icon, whatever, but the fact of his perseverance through his childhood and what he went through, like growing up in the streets of Hong Kong, and then actually, like, being like kind of like, teased and beat up, and then like being like a bully almost, and then also like finding a way to like change that and then turn it into something positive, and then to create the career that he did, and with the mindset that he had. I think is so. I think when there's certain people in this world, and there's definitely some that are still alive, but when they speak with such intention. It's so inspirational, and you can draw so much from it, whether you're like taking in the words that they're saying or just being in their presence and feeling their energy. I think that I think anyone can attest to this. Like, even if it's like a professional like athlete that you look up to, whether it's fishing or if it's football or whatever, like when you're around someone that you know like how much they've accomplished and what they're like, how like Kelly Slater, for instance. Like, for me, surfing's a huge thing. Kelly Slater is one of the great ones in surfing. Like, when I talk to Kelly, and I've got to talk to him once, just his energy and his presence like is just like mind blowing. And then you also find like the human characteristics that make him like personable and whatnot. But then to get inside of like, or to try to understand like how does someone tick, or why do they tick, or whatnot. So I'd say my grandfather. I would say Bruce Lee. The last one, man, has me stumped, dude. The first two like kind of came to mind like right away. And they could be alive, dead 1,000 years ago, or 1,000 years in like, what about in the present?
Yeah, that's fine. Anyone.
It could be a fictional character for all I care.
A fictional character.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Oh man. Oh. You know, and I'm sure this is something that you guys probably didn't also have either, is it would be interesting to have a beer with myself.
Like, how far ahead?
Like 30 years ahead.
Damn.
Like, if I make it that far, you know, like if I live that long.
Deep
Hell
thought.
yeah. I think that's the best 3 we've ever gotten. I don't think anyone ever said that, and that alone is like sick.
Thank you, man.
Deep thought. That's a very deep thought.
Here's a random question for you guys, and I think you've probably heard the question before, but like, if you had the opportunity to know when you're gonna die, would you take it, or would you not want to know?
I wouldn't want to know.
Mm-mm.
I don't know what I'd want.
You live like
if I knew, then I could schedule out everything I want to do before I die. But if I didn't, what if I don't schedule it right? Like,
yeah, then you live with regret. But then if you don't know, you know, I don't know. That's a tricky one, because then you're playing with mortality in a way that a mortal isn't supposed to play with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, true. You're like, yeah. If it's like you can't die until then, and you're like, all right, try me. Hold my beer.
Yeah, try me. Hold my beer, bro. Oh my gosh, that's great.
Well, dude, seriously, thank you so much for taking almost 2 hours out of your night to chat with us, talk fishing, letting us learn about you, and teaching me a whole crap ton about Hawaii fishing. And I think there's a trip that we need to schedule in the future here. But
I'll tell you this, my wife would kill me if I went to Hawaii without her. So
well, there's ways of making sure the missus is happy. Well, like, you know, set her up on a beach somewhere with like, you know, a thing of Mai Tais, and you know,
put some headphones in and just creep away.
Yeah, just like, all right, babe, I'll be right back. And then, you know, and then
6 hours later.
6 hours later.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, dude. No, it was a pleasure talking with you guys.
Yeah,
you know,
thanks, Matty.
and I've done a few podcasts already, and I really enjoyed talking with you guys. You know, especially those questions that you've you know, posed to me. 1 and 2, you kind of let me also go off on my crazy tangents, which I tend to do. And I'm sorry to listeners if I sounded a bit.
We're built on tangents, man. That's the whole platform. Yeah, our platform is tangents.
I had a blast. And thank you for having me on.
Yeah, and safe travels.
Thank you. I got a lot of road time ahead of me.
Yeah, you do.
You are now a full-time trucker, part-time fisherman.
Dude, speaking of a truck, I guess the last thing I'll throw out there, and I just literally thought about it now. I do not have a tow vehicle.
Oh no,
I didn't win a tow vehicle like the previous Bass Nation winners get.
Yeah.
So if anyone out there in internet lands just so happens to know someone trying to get rid of, even if it's a secondhand truck. I have a 4Runner right now, and I know if it comes down to it, when I was talking to Brandon earlier, he's like, hey man, you gotta do what you gotta do, and I'm like, woof, like you're right. Like I made it to Louisiana with the 4Runner, but
what you're getting a Ranger? Ooh, that'd be tough with a 4Runner.
It's, dude, I'm picking it up in Vegas with my 4Runner, and I know I'm gonna be like limping back, because my previous Ranger is a 1990, and it's a 17-foot 10-inch, not with a 250 on it, and it's.
If you're going through Vegas, would you go through Arizona at all by chance?
Maybe.
Possible?
I don't know. Not sure.
I don't know my map.
Probably not. I think you'd be cutting through. No,
I wouldn't be going to Arizona.
No,
I don't think.
Well, either way, I can connect you with Bertrand to see if there's anyone that's selling their truck down that way.
Oh, Bertrand's a good dude. Yeah, that'd be awesome, man. Yeah, because I just want to put my feelers out there. I know the universe will work itself out, and however its mystic ways, it will do its things. And if I have to go to Carvana or whatever and like trade in my truck, I just figured I'd just throw it out there. Just as someone jumping into this next couple of years of my life, and for some reason all the dealers have just like dried up, and it's really hard to find a truck now. But just a little
to the 2,000 to 2,500 people that'll listen or watch this. If you guys know anyone selling a truck,
hit me up, bro. DM me.
Exactly.
Oh, I'm so silly. Oh,
yeah,
man.
Hey, that's brutal.
Hey, you miss every shot that you don't take, right?
So, yeah, absolutely.
So it's
but yeah, dude, for real, thank you a ton for coming on and dropping knowledge. And this will not be, obviously, if you're willing, this will not be the last time that you'll be on the show.
Of course, bro. Let's do it. Yeah, let's do it after I've done a couple elites, and we'll circle back. And I'd like to be like kind of fun to listen to both, and like how my perspective is, if it's changed, if it hasn't,
Yeah, I like that. Let's do it. Let's set that up.
Yeah.
It'd be fun.
Dude. Well, Andy and I are going to close it out here, but we will let you go and give you your night back. But seriously, thank you for dedicating 2 hours to talking to us hooligans. It's been a pleasure, man.
Same here, guys.
Sir.
Thank you again. Have a good night.
We'll see you. Dude, this is the part I love about this sport, is just like, one, like you mentioned earlier, like the networking, the getting to know people, but like it's cool to see different people from different regions and kind of how they intertwine, and kind of seeing how you can get somebody that can commingle everything. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But I will say that, and that brings up another good point too, is it's cool to watch professional bass fishing become like more diverse in terms of where people come from. Like people always think of bass fishing as this southeastern, southern sport, when now you got guys, you got a guy who from the north, the Midwest, that won AOY last year. You have very prevalent big name anglers from the Northeast. You have the Carolinas, which are a powerhouse now.
Canadians,
Southeast,
and Australian.
Canadians. Yeah, I think Chris Johnston. I think he was second in AOY last year.
Yeah.
And then I think in like Bass Fan rankings, they have him in like top 5 in the world. And then you got guys obviously out in the West, the Northwest, Hawaii, Japan, Australia. Dude, it's freaking cool to watch the sport grow. Like
South Africa, Italy, like it's becoming a worldwide sport. I wouldn't be surprised if it becomes an Olympic sport here soon.
That's what's really cool, because I think I'm trying to remember who exactly. Oh, it was. I'm so dumb.
It was Drew.
Us. It was us. Yeah. We did that show.
It was us and Drew Gregory. We were talking about it.
Yeah, we were talking about kayak fishing, and now that could be a sport in itself as well, like in terms of a global scale. But dude, it's just cool to watch. And I just from speaking with Matt tonight, I know he's going to be a great pioneer for the sport, and I think he's going to do amazing things from where he came from over in Hawaii, and that Western culture for fishing, and what he's going to do in professional bass fishing. Dude, just the way he's been carrying himself, you can tell he's going to be very successful in this.
Yeah, I can't wait to follow his career path. It's going to be awesome to watch.
Yeah. I'm excited for him. It's been a pleasure to talk to him. I can't wait to meet him at the Classic, and hopefully we can get him up here to go fishing up in the Northeast. But it's gonna be pretty cool to keep up with his career. So, but yeah, dude, I'm excited to get him back on the show because I have so many more questions.
Yeah, and somebody find him a truck besides a 4Runner.
Somebody find the man a damn truck, would you? I will give $50 if you came from this podcast and you find him a truck and it works out. I'll give you $50.
Right, same. I'll double up that ante.
There you go. You got $100 if you find Matt a truck. Help this man out. It took the smallmouth from him in Hawaii. All right, he's gone through enough trauma.
Oh man, I feel for him.
I know, but yeah, we're gonna wrap it up here. Again, for folks that, if in case you skimmed through the introduction, we are very excited for 2022. We have more announcements to make, but we are very excited to work with the amazing folks at Blackfish Gear. It's been an awesome partnership already. Just from the behind the scenes communication with them, talking with them, it's been really cool. And we're pretty excited to see what 2022 can bring. We have a lot of stuff to unveil for you guys. It's going to unveil for itself, here in the next month or two. We'll obviously let things out for you. We got some series coming in the works. We got new different production stuff that we're really excited for. Fantasy fishing is going to be huge for us this year. If you have not already, make sure you guys go join our group. We have over $500 in prizes with much room to grow on that. We still haven't even gotten everything developed from our sponsors and what we want to do for fantasy fishing, but it's going to be really cool production. Every show we're going to do is going to be live, so you guys can tune in, tell us if we're stupid for some of our picks, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. We're going to have a lot of fun with it. We're going to have weekly giveaways for each show. It's going to be wicked cool. So make sure you guys join in on that group, join in on the Monday Night Lives for that. We're just super pumped for 2022. We're taking this brand to a whole nother level. And yeah, it's, but I have to say it's all credit to our guests, our amazing guests that come on here and spend the time with us. We don't pay anybody. Hopefully people don't ask us for payment because we're broke. But we truly enjoy the knowledge.
We just like talking fishing.
Yeah, just like talking fishing. So, Andy, you got anything else to close us out with here?
See you, folks.
All right, folks. We will see you guys on Monday Night Live. Peace.